Hello and welcome to the 39th episode of Fresh Off the Reel. My name is Lib,
And my name is Spooky Pat.
and we're finally kicking off Spooktober in the middle of October, not at the beginning, because scheduling happened, and fuck COVID, man, it's the worst thing ever.
October is October 20th at the time of recording.
Yep,
Let's date the podcast a bit. Halloween is literally next week, or like 2 weeks, but Halloween is on Monday.
it's next week. No, it's in 2 weeks.
It's in 8 days.
Yeah, in 8 days. No, it's not. It's in 11 days. We could have just done the math. It's on the 31st. It's the 20th. That's 11.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm drinking Baja Blast, so my brain doesn't work right now.
So to kick off Spooktober, we're going to the theme of this year's Spooktober essentially is classic horror. It doesn't really have a theme, but most of the movies we picked was classic horror. It was just a coincidence. So yeah, let's just go with it. The theme is classic horror, and we're starting with the classic of the classics, the 1931 Dracula film. And we're going to compare it to the most recent good Dracula movie, we're going to say, which is 1993. Yeah, 1993's Bram Stoker's Dracula, which was, I think, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. That name sounds familiar, doesn't it?
He's the guy, he made that movie that everyone says is the best thing ever. It has 2 sequels.
Yep. He's the one who did that. This episode might be on the shorter side because these movies don't have a lot. They're horror movies. Horror movies are very simple. When you break them down, horror movies are so simple. They're easy to make, they're cheap to make, but boy are they fun to watch. So let's get into it. Let's talk cinema. So which one do we start with here? Let's start with
We'll start with the 31 one.
yeah.
Because they're surprisingly similar. Like I know it's weird to say, especially because like we watched both together, but we watched 91,
93,
92, 93.
92.
92.
It's 92, 92. I
Um,
said it wrong before.
that movie has, because it was made like 60 years later, it seems like there's a lot more going on. And it definitely like feels that way, but when you really break down the movie, they're very similar. They're both based on the same book. They're just the same story told at 2 very different eras of film, and I think they're interesting to compare because the 90s one is a little long. It's a little long, a lot going on, a little off the wall, whereas the 30s one is very very simple because it was made in the 30s. So they were very limited to what they had at the time.
It is worth saying that the 1930s one is not the first Dracula movie. It's the second, as to my knowledge. The first one was in 1929, I think. If I just double check, 1922. The first movie was in 1922. It was called Nosferatu.
Silent film?
I don't think it was a silent film. It might have been. I don't know anything about it. I should have done my research, like a normal film podcast. But boy, do we not really care about 1922 Nosferatu because apparently it's not good. So, yeah, all of these movies are based on Bram Stoker's original novel called Nosferatu. So I'm guessing the 1922 movie is just a straight adaptation.
Yeah, probably. I'd imagine it's. Like the 30s one is also pretty like to the point. But yeah, I would imagine the 22 one is even more to the point because technology was even more limited at the time.
Fun fact, the name of the vampire, like the name of the like evil vampire, it's not Dracula. His name is Nosferatu. It's just that this movie, the 1931 one, made people think that it's Dracula is the name of the vampire, but Dracula is just a normal person. Like his name is just Count Dracula. Like he's a count of somewhere in Romania, and his name is Dracula, and he's not the only one. Like his whole family, their last name is all Dracula. It's just that he is Nosferatu because something happened. I don't know. They don't actually explain it in the 1931 one, but they do in the 92 one. It's a little bit stupid.
The 92 one is definitely like pretty pretty crazy compared to this one.
Oh
You
yeah.
could kind of tell. You could tell it's a '90s movie. Watching the '90s
Oh
one.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. You could tell it's a 90s movie. But anyway, let's read the plot synopsis of I guess I'll read both of them back to back because yeah. So the 1931 one was directed by Todd Browning. The one that started them all, incorrect. A powerful and ruthless vampire named Count Dracula arrives in London to pry on young socialite women. Standing in the vampire's way is a group of concerned men and the enigmatic Dr. Abraham Van Helsing. The beginning of Universal horror in the sound era. Okay, maybe the first one was a silent film.
So like the one that started them all is probably just about how Dracula was the first Universal monster.
Yeah, it's probably just this is the first Universal monster. Yeah. And then for Bram Stoker's Dracula, the 1992 one, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, Mr. Spaghetti. Is he Italian?
I don't think he is.
I don't even know if he is. When Dracula leaves the captive Jonathan Harker and Transylvania for London in search of Mina Harker, the reincarnation of Dracula's long-dead wife Elisabetta, obsessed with vampire hunter Dr. Van Helsing, sets out to end the madness. That's all one sentence, okay. So you could already tell there's a bit of a difference here, because Bram Stoker's Dracula, Dracula has a backstory in this one. In the 1931 one, they really just go straight to the point, which is just a thing that old movies did, was just go straight to the point. Because no one cares. The movies are expensive. Let's just do it. Every take is $300.
Update: Coppola is Italian, but he's New York Italian. He was born in Michigan and he grew up in New York.
As actual Italy Italians, we disagree.
So he's like we're spaghetti and he's like a linguine, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Still pasta. And like his family's from Italy, but he's a New Yorker. It's very different.
It's a different world. That being said, have you ever seen I think what's it called? A Bronx Tale? Have you ever seen that movie?
A long time ago.
It's so good. Like I saw it recently. It's so good. Like it's hilarious, it's funny, but it's good. Like it's good.
Yeah, it's good. Wait, you saw it for the first time recently?
Yeah.
Oh, neat. Yeah, it's good. It's been a long time.
I saw it, like I caught it on TV when we were eating supper. It was good. Anyways, so the 1931 Dracula, I think more closely follows the book than the 1992 one. The 1992 one takes a lot of liberties because it's 2 hours long.
Well, like the '90s one plays more on the like supernatural aspect of Dracula, whereas like in the '30s one, like just to compare like two moments is like in the '30s one, the whole like transforming into a werewolf thing is more of a it's a lot more toned back in the '30s one, whereas in the '90s version, when Dracula turns into a vampire.
Editor's note: Pat meant werewolf when Dracula turns into a werewolf.
He does it more than once, and it's a whole subplot. So like,
oh yeah,
and like this is a thing, and it was in the book, so like they had to kind of address it in the original, but it's a way more toned down.
The weird thing is, in the book, Dracula is a werewolf and a vampire at the same time, I guess.
Yeah, he's like in Symphony of the Night for all you gamers.
Yeah, he's
Castlevania.
Like, he's like yeah, like in Symphony of the Night. For some reason, that's a thing. I mean, I didn't watch Twilight, but like I was pretty sure that even after playing like a bunch of fantasy games and playing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, vampires, lycanthropes, and sanguinists are two different things. But no,
well, they are. They are, but Dracula's special.
Dracula's special. By the way, if you didn't know, lycanthropy is when you have the werewolf gene, and sanguine vampirus is when you have the vampire gene. That's something you learn as a DM. It's not fun. Actually, it is, but don't tell people that it is.
That sure is interesting. So, like the main story of both movies is just Mr. Dracula wants to move to Europe. He wants to move to London because he wants more women.
Yeah, he needs women in his harem.
Yeah, so he invites Jonathan Harker in both versions. I think in both versions they're supposed to be like realtors. I don't
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
what.
he's like buying land off of
Yeah,
him.
he's buying land. I don't remember what exactly Harker's deal is in the original, but in the 90s when he's definitely like selling him land in Europe. And
Yeah.
then Dracula sees a picture of his wife and he's like, "Wow, your wife's hot and she looks just like my dead wife. I'm gonna kidnap you. I'm gonna hold you hostage in my castle in fucking Transylvania. I'm gonna have my 3 pet wives eat you, and I'm gonna go to London and I'm gonna take your wife."
Take your wife.
That's like the basic version of both stories. Van Helsing is trying to capture Dracula in both versions. There's a werewolf. It's very interesting.
In the 1992 one, the werewolf thing is really played off like really hard cuz Mina is the wife. Mina's best friend in the 1992 one definitely has read Twilight because she has this weird obsession with the werewolf form that Dracula takes. They have sex multiple times in the movie,
Yes.
and it's really strange. Just watching it, just it's just this huge monster werewolf thingy is having sex with this woman, and she's totally into it. It was the most awkward part of the whole fucking thing.
Would you not be into it?
No, I wouldn't. Would you? Are you saying you would?
Listen, all I'm saying
Yeah.
is Dracula's a dude. Okay, he's a guy.
Yeah, he's also Gary Oldman.
Exactly. So you get it.
I don't get it actually.
Hey, Gary, call me.
Let's talk about Van Helsing. So Van Helsing, is another weird one because in today's like canon, in today's head canon for these characters, Van Helsing is a werewolf hunter, but he himself is also a werewolf, right?
I thought Van Helsing was a vampire.
No, he's a werewolf, I think. I think he's either a vampire or a werewolf, but he is a hunter of either or. But in this original story, like this is where the Van Helsing character comes from is the 1931 film. He's just a normal guy. He's a doctor and he's just studying vampirus.
Yeah, like he wants to hunt Dracula in both versions. Well, in the first one, he's more like I'm afraid of you, so I want to kill you. Whereas in the '90s one, he's actively hunting Dracula. But he really is just a normal guy. You don't really see like the hunter Van Helsing with like the crossbow and stuff in these movies.
I think the whole thing with him with the crossbow and everything might have started in Castlevania.
There's
I,
also there's a movie like there's a Hugh Jackman's in it
yeah, I know, but
called Van
that
Helsing.
was
That's like
much later.
2000s.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Castlevania. I don't think it is. I want to say it wasn't Castlevania, but it might have been.
And I don't it's gonna be really hard to find the origin, but in these two films and probably anything that's like adapting the original novel, it's not he's not like a this vampire hunter who wears a black cloak and a big top hat and like he's a vampire and he has a huge crossbow. That's not a thing. In these movies, he's just a doctor. Especially in the 1992 one, he's played by Anthony Hopkins. He's it's kind of implied that he is either a werewolf or a vampire, but it's never shown. It's never confirmed. He definitely doesn't use a crossbow. He uses just the normal wooden stake and hammer.
I mean, he's Anthony Hopkins, right? I don't think Anthony Hopkins is hunting anything. You know,
Well, this is 90s Anthony Hopkins.
I don't think Anthony Hopkins was ever hunting anything.
And then for the 1931, who played Van Helsing? His name was Edward Van Sloan. Oh, he has Van in his name. In that movie, he's just straight up a normal doctor. Like he works at a psychiatric facility.
And he's not in all the Universal monster movies, but he's in like The Mummy and then Frankenstein.
Yeah, he's a maybe it's in one of those movies where it happened.
Maybe, but
I don't
he,
know.
he and the actor who plays Dracula is in like all of them. Like Dracula's in like Frankenstein and the Wolfman and like
Oh
all Plan
yeah.
9 from Outer Space. He's like in all of them.
Oh yeah, like we didn't even mention the actor who played Dracula in the original one is Bela Lugosi. When I think Dracula, he's the face I see. I see Bela Lugosi,
I think of the Count from Sesame Street.
but that's not Dracula.
That's just what I think of, and I think of Castlevania, the anime that's on Netflix, not the games, because I'm a weirdo. I'm a weeb.
I need to watch that anime.
It's really good. You should.
Which
I
which
recommend it.
which game is it adapting?
Castlevania. So okay, so it's weird. It's Castlevania 3,
Okay.
but it's not the entirety of 3. It's like certain parts of 3 that like Trevor is part of.
Someone told me that the new season is gonna be Symphony of the Night.
That's what we're all speculating. Because it doesn't have a new season confirmed at the moment, but it's probably going to be Symphony of the Night.
Okay. When that happens, I'll watch it. Because Symphony of
It's
the
really
Night
good.
is really good. Man,
And they're also
anyone
doing,
out there, man, if you haven't played Symphony of the Night, you gotta.
they're doing a new. I don't know if it's a season or if it's a separate show, but they're doing it for Castlevania 4.
Why 4?
Uh,
That's
n-
the SNES one, isn't it?
yeah, that's the one Richter is from, and then
Yeah.
that'll probably lead into a Symphony of the Night later. But I don't know if that's season 4 or if it's a new show.
Is Alucard in the show?
He's in the show. We
Okay.
don't know if he's gonna be in the new one, but he's in the show. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right, back to Dracula. I just
Alucard strike is backwards, guys. Haha.
Ha 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 ha! Literally everybody. Hey guys, you know Pokemon, right? Ekans, it's Snake backwards. Okay. Anyways, in the original one, well, first of all, it's black and white, so it's kind of hard to talk about the technology between the two because this one's in the 30s, so yeah, it's in black and white. Yeah, the audio is terrible. It's shot weird.
Yeah, the sets are all very basic. Like Dracula's castle is very simple in design compared to how it is in the '90s one, where it's like a battle station at all times. Like the one in the '90s movie feels like a final boss dungeon, whereas the '30s one feels like a house they break into.
But the really funny thing I was about to say was in the original one, there's two separate scenes where Bela Lugosi goes to where Dracula goes to Mina's room where she's sleeping, and there's a lamp in the room, and I guess the lamp was messing with the lighting for when they were filming it, so they put like a paper and a giant clamp on the lamp so that it would block the light, but they left it in the shot, so it's just there. You could see a lamp with a cardboard on it with like a huge like clamp that's clearly not from that era that the movie is trying to take place in. and you can see it again later.
It was the '30s. People weren't paying attention to that. They were looking at Dracula.
They were looking at Mina's tits.
And they were looking at Dracula.
Yeah. Another weird thing is just we're jumping around a lot, but the ending is so anticlimactic.
Okay, it's about the ending. I don't because we watched both these movies like a week apart, and we watched them. Wait, did we watch them a week apart? Did we watch them the same day? I don't remember.
It was we watched it. We watched the 1931. Then the next day we watched the 1992 one. Oh, let me check.
Okay,
Let me check my diary.
But I know we watched these movies like a week or two ago, like real time. Like it's been a minute.
Yeah.
Did sorry, I coughed. Excuse me.
Oh, it's okay, dude. Don't worry about it. Oh, they were 2 days apart. We watched them 2 days apart.
Okay, we watched them like 2 weeks ago, I think, right?
Yeah, we watched it on October 1st.
Did Dracula die in the '90s one, in the '30s one?
Yeah.
Because I know like Mina becomes a vampire in the '90s one, and then she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna take care of him. I'll make sure he never leaves the castle again, and I'll stay with him for eternity." And then she kills him anyway.
Yeah, in the 30s one, Mina gets bitten and she has the vampire blood in her. But in the 30s one, it's like if we kill Dracula, then the curse is lifted and there'll be no more vampires. So then
Whereas the '90s one,
Yeah.
she stays a vampire after Dracula dies.
Yeah, so Van Helsing kills Dracula, and then Mina and was the name Jonathan? Was that the guy's name?
Jonathan. Yeah, Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan's curse gets lifted, so he's not a vampire. He's not a thrall anymore. He wasn't a vampire to begin with. He was a thrall. So he's not a thrall anymore, and then they live happily ever after.
In the 30s one, yeah, but then in the 90s one, um, Mina kills Dracula herself,
Yeah.
and then she just stays in Dracula's castle. So she's not like a threat, I guess, to humanity. And then Jonathan's like, okay, I guess I lost my wife. I'm leaving.
Yeah, because in that one, Jonathan doesn't become a vampire.
Yeah, he gets like eaten alive, but he still like survives and doesn't become a vampire. Because in the 90s one, only Dracula can. If you're bitten by Dracula, you become a vampire. Whereas in the 30s one, he's bitten by
The
like
wives.
the three wives, and then he becomes a thrall. So like I guess like the curse of vampirism changed over like that time too. Even in other media. So I guess they just adapted so like Dracula is the only one who can turn you into a vampire.
I think that's what in like the fantasy setting for like video games and RPGs, that's what they go for nowadays. Because I know in okay, I'm bringing up Skyrim here. In Skyrim, there's the master vampire. His name's Harkin, and then he has a daughter. Her name's Serana, and they're the only two vampires in the entire um game, in the whole game. Like it might also be in the entire Elder Scrolls mythos, but just in Skyrim, they're the only two vampires that could spread vampirism. If you get bitten by another vampire, well, also anyway, in Skyrim, it's not bitten. It's if you get scratched by a vampire, then you become one. But if you get
Oh,
scratched by a normal vampire in Skyrim, the person just becomes uh what's the word, like a hostile, like always hostile. Like if you see anybody, you'll immediately attack. Whereas if you get bitten by Harkin, or not scratched, bitten by Harkin or Serana, then you become like them. You become like them. You could control your vampirism. You could break out whenever you want. Nobody knows you're a vampire because your skin won't change. Nothing will change. It's just that's
you're just a
the
vampire.
master vampire blood. And then
Okay,
the other vampires just carry normal vampire blood. And the normal vampire blood is just a lot more dangerous, and you could die from
right.
just having it. So that I think that's what's going on here in the Dracula story, because only Dracula can pass on sanguine vampiris, and then all the other ones just transfer normal vampirism, so they just become thralls, and they get brainwashed or whatever. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Dracula can brainwash people if they look in his eyes, but if you're
Yeah,
wearing glasses or contacts, then it won't work.
he's really good at seducing people.
Yeah, I mean
That comes.
that
That sounded like a joke, but no, that's this thing.
yeah, that's a thing. Like vampire, that's one of the main powers of vampires is seduction.
Yeah, his whole goal in the movie, like I said earlier, is he wants to go to London just so he has like a bunch of women he could seduce, and then he could find his next bride. The only reason he singles out Mina specifically is one, she looks exactly like his deceased wife. In the 90s one, I think she's supposed to like it's just
The
stated
reincarnation.
that she's the reincarnation of Dracula's wife, but in the original it's just, oh, she looks mighty tasty, just like my ex-wife. And two, he gets a really convenient source of food because Mina's best friend Lucy, who's a bigger character, and he's in both movies than I thought she'd be, is just a huge horn dog, and just jumps right into Dracula's arms in both movies, and he uses her to like, one, manipulate her into like getting Mina, and two, using her as a source for food. In the 90s when she straight up becomes a vampire.
Yeah.
She doesn't in the original, but in the
In the
90s one
original,
she
she
does.
just dies, I think.
Yeah, and in this one she becomes a vampire, and then does Van Helsing kill her, or does she just die?
I don't remember.
Because in the original in the original she never like escapes Dracula. She just dies in like during the climax. But in the 90s movie she like escapes, or they rescue her, and then like Van Helsing and her husband and some other dude. I can't remember what the other dude's point of the story was. aside from being muscle during the climax, I guess. But they're trying to like cure her. And I don't remember if she died or not. I think she did. I think Von Helsing killed her because they couldn't cure her.
Well, I really don't remember.
Because like in the scene, she starts attacking people like in the bedroom, and then they have to knock her out. I don't remember what happens next. And that's like before the big siege on Dracula's castle at the end. So yeah, that's Lucy, and that's Dracula's whole reason for having her around. She's like, it's perfect. She wants me anyway, and I get infinite food because well, in the original she just like doesn't do enough harm to her, so she keeps like healing normally like a normal human does. But in the 90s one, she heals because she's a Dracula. She's a vampire. She's
Yeah,
a Dracula. Good
she's
job,
a
man.
Dracula.
She's a vampire who has like a healing factor, and just like you could just take as much blood from her as he wants, and she'll regenerate.
Lucy's kind of weird in the 90s one.
In the 90s one, I guess like it's a show of the times, right? Because like in the 30s one, like she just wants to be with a man, but she's more of a prude in the original because it was the 30s, right? Like that's just
Yeah. In the 90s one,
she's straight up like going out of her way to party and like be with other men even though she's married, and she just like that whole aspect of her character is a lot more exaggerated. But that really is just like comparing the 30s culture versus the 90s culture, where the 90s was a big like getting into the big party era, and like how people portrayed themselves socially was very different, even like, in the way they dressed. Like in the 30s when Mina and Lucy are talking about just like men, and Lucy's like, oh yeah, I slept with a man in my dreams, tee hee, and she's like all shy about it.
yeah.
Whereas in the 90s one, she's like flirting with this, was he a Texan? He was like a cowboy,
Yeah,
right?
he was like a Texan.
Yeah, she's like outwardly like flirting with him, and he gets roped into the story and is invited to the raid at the end of the movie. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Lucy's definitely like more of a present in the 90s one, especially when she becomes a vampire and she's around more. I'm trying to think of like other like major plot points in the movie. I think like the 30s one is interesting. Just because like the Universal monsters are such a big well-known property nowadays. Obviously Dracula and Frankenstein are the big ones. And to like see where it started versus like we see stuff like Shin Godzilla, for example, or two like it's Shin Godzilla isn't Universal monsters. But like it's interesting to see like how far monster movies have come, especially the classic kind of monster movie. And even just comparing like the 90s one to the 30s one and seeing how film has changed in 60 years, which like honestly isn't that long a time, is interesting. Like I didn't we didn't give our scores at all actually. I gave both of these movies a 3.5.
Oh yeah, I gave the 30s one a 3.5 and the 90s one a 3.
I think I gave both a 3.5.
You gave both a no, you did the same thing as me.
Okay. Because I do like the 30s one more,
Yeah, I also enjoyed the 30s one more.
but I think comparing them is interesting.
Like the 90s one just wastes I'm gonna say wastes a lot of time. But I think it uses its time pretty well, but a lot of the time is for Dracula's backstory, which really didn't need to be a thing. Like he was during the Crusades, I think it was the Crusades, he was a soldier or a general or something. And he was a Christian and like he was a devout Catholic and all this stuff. And then his wife died. And then he was like, no, he blamed God for his wife dying, and he like forsaken him, and then he like went to a church where there was the statue of Jesus, and he stabbed it in the heart, and that gave him the curse of being a vampire. And like the I think it was like the statue bled, and he drank the blood, and that gave him like the powers. In the 30s one, I don't know, I didn't read the book, but
In the 30s one, isn't he just a
he's
vampire?
just already a vampire.
Yeah, and like when Jonathan comes to Transylvania, like the whole town knows he's a vampire, whereas in the 90s one, like Van Helsing is the only one who even like believes in vampires to begin with.
Yeah, in the 30s one, everyone's like, "Oh, don't go there. That's Dracula's castle. He's a vampire," you know?
Yeah, and then Jonathan's like, ah, fuck, I need the money. What's he gonna do? Kidnap me, lock me in a cell, and drink my blood for like 9 months? Nah. And
I don't think in the 30s one that Jonathan knows he's a vampire. It's just everybody tells him he is, and he's like, nah, vampires are not real. Come on, you
yeah,
guys.
he's just an old guy trying to buy land.
Yeah. He's just trying to buy land, and he lives in a
Boy,
weird castle.
it's weirdly gothic, and he wears a cape.
Oh man, speaking of gothic, the 90s one
It's very,
is
very gothic.
very gothic. Like just you probably picked it up just from me talking about the religious implications in the 90s one that are just not in the 30s one. But in the 90s one, it's so like the castle looks awesome. The castle just looks like it looks like what you would think Dracula's lair looked like. And then like the wives, there's a scene with the wives when they're all eating Jonathan. It's a very weird scene, but the background and everything it all looks super cool. There's like a bed of roses that they're eating him on.
Like this wasn't the first Dracula property to use the gothic aesthetic. Obviously, like and we talk about Castlevania a lot in this episode, and we're not a video game podcast. And but Castlevania wasn't the first either, but it was popularized way before this movie. But I think this movie is what solidified it for Dracula specifically, like the whole gothic nature of it. And then like after this movie is when Van Helsing became like a gothic vampire hunter, and that whole aesthetic just kind of stuck. And it's cool. I like the aesthetic a lot. I think it works for Dracula. Whereas like the 30s one just kind of feels like he's a guy. Like he dresses in a cape and stuff, but he's like it's like comparing a Halloween costume versus like a high budgeted costume, you know?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what that's what comparing these two movies feels like in terms of how they treat the aesthetic. And that's not to throw shade at the 90s version because at the 30s version because obviously that movie came out in the 30s. The way movies were made was very different. Budgets for movies was very different. They just didn't have certain things accessible at the time. But it's interesting to compare them, for sure.
Like speaking of the costume design, the 90s one, Gary Oldman just has this weird fucking wig that he's wearing. It's like
Yeah,
it looks like a it looks like his head's the shape of a heart.
yeah. His hair, his wig shape is weird. The '90s one also has a young Dracula. Like he drinks enough blood and he becomes younger, and he looks just like Yeah, the actor's name is escaping me. Oh fuck. Hold on.
Who?
God damn it, Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp. Oh yeah, he does
Kind of,
kind of
he
look
kind
like
of like
Johnny
when
Depp.
he's young, he kind of looks like Johnny Depp. Whereas the '30s one didn't do that plot point because they didn't have the budget to, I guess. Yeah, like it's cool. I think if you like Dracula in any capacity, and this goes for all you Twilight watchers out there, I think the '90s one is. It's not a bad movie. I enjoyed it. It's just a little, it's too long.
Yeah, it's too long and it doesn't justify being that long and there's a lot of filler. It doesn't get to the point as soon as you think and then like as once the like big siege on Dracula's castle starts, it's just so anticlimactic. Like nobody dies except for the fucking the husband of Mina's husband.
Mina's husband, Dracula, and Mina's alive. Yeah, it's just like those are the only two deaths you care about. You know.
And it's like, okay, fine. And then the ending is just it leaves the ending is like open ended, like, oh, does Mina keep her end of the deal? Does she really just stay in Dracula's castle for all eternity? Or is she gonna come out and start, feeding on the living again? And then the 30s one has a similar anticlimactic ending where Dracula, but in that one, it ends so abruptly. That's why it feels anticlimactic because it just ends abruptly. It's only 74 minutes, but the ending is just like Dracula dies, the curse is lifted, Mina and Jonathan live in the castle together happily ever after. That's it. Like
Like
okay,
the '30s one has a sequel.
yeah, it has like three sequels, doesn't it? It has there's Dracula's daughter, Son of Dracula, House of Dracula, Return of Dracula.
And then like Dracula appears in a bunch of other movies, like other Universal monster movies.
Yeah, so like it's just none of the Universal monster movies are connected. So I guess he did actually die, but like still.
Dracula is the Nick Fury of the Universal monster movies.
Yeah, the Dracula movies are Universal Monsters Phase 1.
They never got a phase two. because all like the ones that have come out since the '90s movie are kind of disjointed, like, but they're not bad. Like the Mummy movies are good. I love the Brendan Fraser Mummy.
The Hunchback of Notre Dame is a Universal monster movie,
Is it?
not the Disney one.
No, I know, not the Disney one.
Oh, the Raven's a really good one. Bela Lugosi is also in the Raven, but he doesn't play Dracula.
He got
Uh,
typecast.
yeah, he really did get typecasted. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it for the '30s one.
I don't
And
have much else to say, but I think I've said my piece about the '90s one too. I think it's a weird movie. Not bad. I give it a 6 out of 10. So like,
yeah, I gave
it's
it a 6 out of 10, and and then Dracula, the '30s one, I gave 7.
yeah, they're not bad movies. I just think the '90s one is a little too over the top, a little too long. I don't think I'd revisit it. I don't regret watching it, and I would definitely recommend it, but I don't think I would revisit it myself.
Yeah, like if you guys like the gothic aesthetic and you like vampires and a lot of blood and tits, then watch Bram Stoker's Dracula. But if you want to watch a movie of its time and you want to just relax for like an hour, just have something to watch, the '30s one is pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
with
pretty good.
that's Dracula.
I think there's a colorized version somewhere out there.
There might be, but I think I'd recommend the black and white one though,
Oh yeah,
just
for
because.
for any movie that has a black and white version, watch the black and white version because it's gonna be infinitely better than the colorized version. The colorized version is just gonna be it's like colorized using AI probably, and it's probably gonna look really weird unless it's hand colored. If it's hand colored, then sure, watch the colorized one because I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure at release the first James Bond movie was in black and white, but then they hand colored it later for the DVD release. I think. I think. I don't know. I mean VHS. Why did I say DVD?
You guys should quote him if he's wrong.
Yeah, yeah. You should beat me up if I'm wrong. Speaking of colorized, a while ago when we talked about 12 Angry Men, I mentioned the project to colorize that movie. Apparently, it's almost done. So yeah, we could watch 12 Angry Men in color soon.
Might need to check that out at some point.
Yeah. But anyways, that's it for Dracula. Great movie to start off Spooktober. So let's move on to our TV show segment.
Actually, this one's kind of interesting because speaking of black and white stuff,
Yeah.
um, between the time of us watching Dracula and now, Marvel's Werewolf by Night came out. It's not really a TV show, but it's a TV special.
Yeah, it was like, it's like it's like on Halloween when channels would do their TV specials. It was like that kind of thing. And you know what? It's good. It's
Yeah,
really good.
I liked it a lot. It's the Wolfman story, but in Marvel. It's shot in black and white, which is very cool. It was originally shot in color, but it wasn't until like the third revision that Kevin Feige was like, okay, yeah, black and white works.
See, the problem is because they already shot the whole thing before they made the change, so it's not shot like a black and white movie. It's shot like a modern Marvel movie, which really took me out of the black and white aesthetic. It took me out of it because it's using modern cameras and it's using modern techniques. I feel like if you're shooting in black and white, you can't just make the movie black and white. You have to shoot it as if the film was filmed in the '40s and the '30s, like Dracula.
You expect too much from Marvel.
Like I feel like that's not asking a lot. I mean, that's probably cheaper to shoot like that.
You asked too much from Marvel. I'm surprised this because it was from Marvel that this was as like creative and as good as it was. Michael Giacchino directed this. If you know the
Yeah,
Batman, he did the score for the Batman
and all of the Pixar
and all
movies.
the Pixar movies, Spider Man. But he turns out he's also a great director.
Yeah, like Marvel, make Michael Giacchino do more things, please. Like this is good.
Like, we were just like sort of complaining about how the movie's shot, but like the movie's shot very well. It's just not shot. It's shot like a modern movie. It's not shot like a '30s movie. But like for what it is, it's shot very well. I think the scenes are lit very well too for something that was made black and white in post. The scenes are lit very well.
What's really cool is because like the whole excuse me, the whole thing is like based on this this like bloodstone, I think it was called, the bloodstone. And the bloodstone's the only thing in the movie that's colorized. It's red. That's cool. Like that's the advantage of shooting in color and then making it black and white. They could make like important plot points in color. So like they made the bloodstone glow red.
And it really pops.
Yeah.
I think the performances here aren't the best though. I don't know if it was just they got like I didn't recognize a lot of the actors. They didn't really like do much for me if I'm being perfectly honest. I think the performances are like just fine for the most part.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think the CG on Swamp Thing, right? Was it Swamp Thing?
Yeah, Swamp Thing.
It looked like terrible.
The problem is, like, I again, like he's gonna say that I'm asking too much from Marvel, but if they were really going for like that aesthetic, they should have made Swamp Thing a puppet.
I agree, and like the Wolfman was
A puppet.
was a costume.
Oh yeah, a costume. The Wolfman was a costume, and it looked so good. It looked so good. Like
Yeah.
where you could do it practical, you should do it practical. CGI should be the last resort for impossible shots. Marvel doesn't know that rule.
Yeah, and I guess like maybe they thought Swamp Thing would have looked too goofy as a costume or as a puppet, but like he looks like he doesn't belong in this scene, and I think that's where CG that's how you tell good CG versus bad CG is like Swamp Thing just looks like he doesn't belong next to these actors. Whereas like yeah, the CGI they throw over like the Iron Man suit, for example, still looks like he belongs there. This just looks completely out of it. A lot like She-Hulk does.
Yeah.
But we'll get there when we get there.
Hold, Pat. I need to tell you something. Because I'm looking on the Marvel page on Disney Plus. They added Spectacular Spider-Man,
Yeah, I know. And they added the Spider-Man: The New Adventures as well.
but it's only season 1.
No. So it's season 1 and 2, but for some reason on Disney Plus, it's just one season.
Oh, okay.
They're like bunched up together. I know.
And they also added that 3D Spider-Man
Yeah,
show.
that's like the Spider-Man New Adventures, but it's just called Spider-Man now.
We're allowed to talk about this because this is a TV show segment. We found a loophole, guys. We found out how to talk about TV shows.
Yes, that means we'll talk about Spectacular Spider-Man someday. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Like actually though, like for real.
But actually, yes,
Like we're not kidding.
it's still on Netflix though, so there's that.
Yeah, it's still on Netflix.
At least it still was on Netflix last I checked, which was like a couple days ago.
I know, but it's just like every day Netflix is less and less worth it.
Yeah. Yep.
And then the price keeps going up. It's like, come on, Netflix.
I've actually been using Disney Plus more, like just to watch shows.
Yeah, same.
Like I was watching Fresh Off the Boat, and then I'm probably gonna watch something else that's on Disney Plus.
Speaking of Disney Plus, She-Hulk Attorney at Law concluded last week.
I've not seen the finale yet, but I got spoiled, so
I thought you watched it.
I know.
All right. Well, the finale is very meta. It's so meta that it hurts. The finale broke the fourth wall like so many times that a fifth wall was put up and then it broke it. She-Hulk was bad. I didn't like it.
I like She-Hulk. I think the show's fine.
I think the last 3 episodes are the best ones.
Yeah, I agree. I think the show before the like therapy retreat were like just fine, and then the show after that point was like all right. I find She-Hulk is like just completely harmless. Like I enjoyed my time with it, but I have no desire to revisit it ever again. And to be frank, don't care if Jen ever returns, which is a shame. But on the other hand, She-Hulk is exactly like this in the comics, so I can't really complain from that regard, right? Like this is just like that's just the character. She's just a fourth wall breaking jokester who like defends people in court. So in that regard, Disney did well. They adapted Jen very well. It's just not for me, I guess. Like I thought the show was just alright. I enjoyed it more than stuff like Miss Marvel. Like Miss Marvel. Like basically like all the shows except like Moon Knight and like WandaVision.
Yeah. I mean, I still think WandaVision and Hawkeye are the best shows.
Yeah, I always forget Hawkeye like happened.
So speaking of Marvel, I was just looking at again on the same page. You know where they have the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the timeline order?
Yes.
They moved the position of What If, and they put Werewolf by Night in there.
What if doesn't? It's not canon, right? It doesn't matter.
Well, apparently it is.
I mean, it's I guess it's canon because like multiverse lol, but
They moved it from after WandaVision to before WandaVision. Now it's between Loki and WandaVision, and Werewolf by Night is after Thor: Love and Thunder, and She-Hulk is before Ms. Marvel.
I mean, sure that kind of matters because Matt Murdock is in it, but like
Why is Werewolf by Night here?
Werewolf by Night is so detached from anything that you could put it like before Captain America, and it wouldn't matter.
I don't know
Like,
why did they put it as part of the timeline? It's so stupid. Marvel, not everything has to be part of the MCU.
because Werewolf by Night's gonna like the werewolf is gonna be in Moon Knight season 2 probably.
Is there gonna be a Moon Knight season 2?
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
I think Oscar Isaac like confirmed it.
Oh, cool. Is there any other TV shows? I don't think. Oh, well, Andor.
That we have not watched. I don't know if you watched it by yourself, but I didn't.
No,
watch
we
it.
didn't. We didn't watch Andor yet. We'll get back to you on Andor.
I've heard like the episodes we haven't seen yet are like fantastic though, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
And that's basically it for TV shows.
That's basically it for TV shows. We'll get back to you next week on Andor because we need to watch those episodes, and there's a new one coming today. So
today.
yeah, we're gonna have 3 episodes to watch. Hell yeah. So let's move on to Backloggd, the segment where we recommend each other movies to talk about in the next episode. And last episode, Pat recommended me X-Men First Class, and it was really good.
Yeah, we watched it like 2 days ago.
Yeah, it was good. Like I liked it a lot. I think it's the best X-Men movie that I've seen so far.
I agree. I think X2 might be a little higher, but it's up there. It's up there.
I completely forgot everything that happened in X1, 2, and 3. But I really like X-Men First Class. I don't like the original cast of the X-Men besides, I guess, Hugh Jackman, but even to a point, I don't really like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. So, like, it was a nice breath of fresh air to see a completely new cast for this movie, except for Jennifer Lawrence. I think she's the only one that came back, right?
No, she's new.
She's new.
Yeah.
Who played Mystique before?
Let's check. It was not Jennifer Lawrence. She was way too young to like she might have not been born. Actually, how old is Jennifer Lawrence? That's probably not true.
This is 2011. The OG movies were like there's no way she wasn't born.
Yeah, she was born. She was born. Like, she was young. Like she was no way.
Yeah, but anyways, I really love James McAvoy as Professor X.
Rebecca Jean.
Rome
Jean.
Okay, whatever. So I really like James McAvoy as Professor X. I think he's really really good. I don't know if I prefer him over Patrick Stewart. I don't know if I prefer him, but we'll see because I need to keep watching these movies.
Yeah, he's really good. I like him a lot. I like
Michael Fassbender
as Magneto a lot as well. I think they both do fantastic jobs.
Yeah, Michael Fassbender as Magneto is so good. So good. I love it.
Like, part of me doesn't want them to come back for the MCU because that means they have to bring back the other people too, and I don't like them nearly as much. But I would also be very okay if they brought them back to play the MCU versions of these characters.
Right.
They're really good. They're really, really good.
I don't think like for Professor X in the MCU, I would either take James McAvoy or a recast because Patrick Stewart he's a good Professor X, but
he's too old. He can't do it
anymore. He's too old. Yeah, I was gonna say
we got to see him in Multiverse of Madness, and
I think it's good enough.
Yeah, and you could even see his age there.
Yeah, really.
He can't do it anymore. I also don't want to see him do it again because of Logan.
Yeah.
So.
By the way, if this is your first episode of Fresh Off the Reel, Pat has recommended me all the X-Men movies leading up to Logan because he wants me to watch Logan.
Yep, and we're gonna cover Logan.
Yeah, and we're gonna cover Logan. But anyways, continuing. So I gave this movie 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. What'd you give it? What'd you rate your rewatch?
I think also 3.5. I'm pretty sure.
That's good, yeah. Like this movie, there's a lot of it that happens like during like World War II era. I like war movies. And this movie like does it pretty well. It shows a side of World War II that not a lot of movies like to show, which is the concentration camps. Like and even Germans were imprisoned in concentration camps. It wasn't just Jewish people, you know. So like a lot of movies just neglect that fact. And X-Men First Class really, you know, the Michael Fassbender is his mother was killed by Kevin Bacon. Michael Fassbender's mother was killed by Kevin
Killed by
Bacon.
by German Kevin Bacon.
By German Kevin Bacon. And I guess that's a good enough motive to pursue somebody, like to try and kill somebody. But I do think that Magneto is very childish in this movie. He doesn't really he doesn't really act with his brain, which I guess makes sense because he's a villain at heart, and like during the whole time he was just going along with Xavier just so he can get to Kevin Bacon and kill him.
Right, and then he like, because his original goal was just a revenge plot, right? He just wants to get revenge on the scientist who killed his mother, and then it's like Xavier finds out he's a mutant, and they like work together to create the school, and it's through being with Xavier that he kind of learns how he's not the only one who suffered being a mutant. Like mutant kind is just beneath normal humans. And both Xavier and Magneto don't like that. They both want to change the world, but at the end of the movie, the way they go about changing it, it just changes. Magneto becomes a bad boy, and Xavier is Xavier.
Like I don't like the ending just because it doesn't really make sense. Like the characters that side with Magneto don't make sense. Mystique ends up like we you it's from the other movies, you know that Mystique is going to end up joining Magneto, but Mystique like it's so out of character, and personally I believe it's so out of character because the whole movie is it's just like Mystique and Xavier were like siblings because Xavier took her in because he was like, "Oh, you're also a mutant. I'm not alone." Like when he was a kid, and they grew up together. But Mystique's whole arc is that she doesn't think she looks beautiful. Like she wants to be a normal person. She wants to be a normal
Be a
human.
normal person, and she thinks she's a freak, so she changes her appearance to look like Jennifer Lawrence, right?
But I think like it's just for her. Like I don't know if this I get that it's that Mystique is like it's different, but it's her arc is so idiotic because she doesn't have to look blue. Whatever she wants, she can change her appearance, her voice, whatever she wants.
What Magneto's whole shtick is like he tells her like why instead of doing that, instead of changing into something comfortable, you should be comfortable being who you are, and that's kind of why she sides with Magneto, because like what's his Xavier says like, oh, but like you're perfect as you are, blah blah blah, but then she watches him flirt with normal women and choosing to look at other women but not her because she's blue.
And another thing that's stupid is Mystique. Maybe he's not looking at you because he sees you as a sister and not a love interest.
Yeah, but
Like it's dumb. It's dumb. Like I just think it's so dumb. And like her when her arc ends, it's just like she just fucking abandoned Xavier. Xavier did literally nothing wrong. He did nothing wrong the whole movie, and so for some reason everybody's against him.
he pays the price in the end, dude.
I don't get it. Another thing I don't get is whoever came up with Beast's costume because
Yeah,
it looks so
Beast
bad.
Beast's costume is definitely practical in this one, but it looks really bad. It looks terrible.
Beast looks way better in X3. Beast is fun fact. Beast is my favorite X-Men. He's my favorite X-Men. How do you say it? He's my
Favorite X-Men is probably it's fair.
favorite member of the X-Men. Like I love Beast. I think he's really funny. I like that he's smart and like just acts like a normal person even though he's a fucking beast. He's cool in this movie. He's played by Nicholas Holt.
Peter Parker.
Yeah, he looks like Peter Parker. He's played by Nicholas Holt, who was in Mad Max Fury Road. He was one of the he was Nux. His name was Nux. He was one of Immortan Joe's boys. I forgot what they're called. The War Boys. The War Boys. He was like one of the Immortan Joe's War Boys, but whatever. I knew it, right? Like the whole time while we were watching the movie, I was like, oh, I recognize his face. Where the fuck do I know him from? It's like, oh, he's in Mad Max Fury Road. But then once he like becomes the blue guy, because he injects himself with what he thought he made an antidote, but it actually just heightened his powers. It just made him into like a blue beast. The suit just looks really, really, really bad.
It does like get better throughout these movies because obviously like you're gonna see more Beast in the rest of
Yeah.
the new timeline. Like I think it's 5 movies or 4 movies, but yeah, you'll see more of them.
If I end up watching them.
Well, they're bad, so I wouldn't recommend them.
Yeah.
But you need to watch Days of Future Past. That one's good. And that was mandatory to watch Logan.
But yeah, with that being said, that's pretty much it for X-Men First Class. A pretty good movie. I really enjoyed it, and I'm not looking forward to the Wolverine because that's next.
I am not looking forward to revisiting the Wolverine.
Yay! All right. Well, now it's time for me to recommend you a movie, Pat.
Yeah, you mentioned seeing something on my watch list earlier that you were surprised I haven't seen. But
Yes.
there's also the Among Us documentary on there that you said you wanted to watch. So who knows what it's gonna be this week?
I'm not recommending you the Among Us documentary, but I am recommending you something that's kind of on theme of today's episode, because we did talk about a Francis Ford Coppola movie, and there's a Coppola movie in your watch list that you haven't seen, that I also talked about like at your house like a few days ago, thinking that you already seen it, and I spoiled the whole thing for you because I thought you saw it already. I'm recommending you The Outsiders.
Oh right, yes.
How have you not seen the movie?
Oh, yeah, I have not seen The Outsiders.
Did you read the book?
A long time ago.
Okay,
A very
well,
long time ago.
The book is better, but the movie is really, really, really good. It's actually one of my mother's favorites, so that's a cool little tidbit there. It's. I remember at your house we were talking about like movies that made us cry, and I was like, The Outsiders movie didn't, but The Outsiders book did, and then I went on to explain why, thinking that everybody in the room has either read the book or watched the movie, and then I saw on your watch list that you hadn't watched it.
Makes you feel better. I don't remember what you said, so.
Well, okay.
And I've read the book, so.
The movie has such a good cast. It has such an amazing cast. The music is great, and I think it's one of the better book adaptations out there. So, if you want to watch it together, we can, because I haven't seen the book. I haven't seen I haven't seen the movie since like grade 8. So not even. It was like grade 6. When did I read The Outsiders? Grade 7 is when I read The Outsiders. No, I went back and forth over there. But yeah, you gotta watch that.
I will watch it.
So tune in next episode, where we talk about The Outsiders on Backloggd, and also, we're going to continue Spooktober, because we are doing 5 episodes of Spooktober, because there were supposed to be 5 of them. It's going to be extending into November, so don't worry, Spooktober's not going anywhere. It's just going to be interrupted by Wakanda Forever, on, like, I think the movie's coming out November 11th, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so, but next we're going to be reviewing The Evil Dead. We're going to be doing The Evil Dead next episode, so make sure to check that out.
One of my favorite movies.
Oh yeah, The Evil Dead is really good.
But before we close off this episode, I want to just say something.
Oh, what's up?
I didn't tell Liv about this beforehand.
Uh-oh.
So, at time of recording,
Oh.
Liv's birthday is tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Wish him happy birthday.
Thank you.
I will say it again at some point, but happy birthday.
Thank you, Pat. Tomorrow's my birthday.
Yeah.
Yay. Man, I really thought we were going to go the whole episode without saying it.
There it is.
I'm a Halloween baby. Well, it's really funny because like I have a really cute picture like somewhere around here that might like, because I was born 10 days before Halloween. My friend, like, so right away, as soon, like, the the day, like, that my mom came back from the hospital, my dad went to, like, Halloween Mania to buy me a costume. And I was a pumpkin. I was a jack-o'-lantern.
Your dad just walks in. I need a costume for a 24-hour-old.
I need a costume for a 10-day-old baby. Thank you, Pat. Thank you.
No problem.
Maybe we'll do something next episode about it. Who knows?
We'll
It'll be
mention.
past it.
We'll mention how you're older.
I'll be 20. Oh man. Well, that's about it for today. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. If you liked it and you want to see more, then make sure to check out our link tree. That's linktr.ee/freshoffthereel. On the link tree, you can find our Spotify, YouTube, Jazzwalkers, our Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, anywhere you listen to your podcasts, you can find us there. You can also check out our socials right under there, and on the top of the link tree you could find a form that you can fill out to recommend us a movie or a TV show. We'll take that recommendation and then we'll make an episode about it. So if you want to influence an episode of the podcast, then make sure to check out the link tree, linktr.ee/freshoffthereel, all one word, no caps. And of course you could check out our Letterboxd accounts where we have some lists made. We have a bunch of reviews and podcast spoilers, so check that out. But with that, we will see all of you in a theater near you. Bye-bye. Say bye, Pat.
No.
Say it.
Bye.
Thank you.
Lucy's definitely like more of a present in the 90s one, especially when she becomes a vampire and she's around more.
Yeah.
My brain just like died.
Yeah, my brain died too. Wow. I think I am getting sick, I think.
That's not good. I hope you feel better.
Anyways, oh fuck, I hope we can still do the poker night. Shit. Oh no.
That's some info for the audience. We're doing a little game night soon.
Bold of you thinking this is not getting cut out so that
No, you should
so that we
totally
don't
keep
look
it in.
stupid.
We should totally keep it in because it's funny.
Yeah, but it's gonna make us sound stupid. I'll think about it, Pat.
Maybe you could repurpose this into something else. Ooh.
Nah. Editor's note, I just fucking realized that we didn't even mention that baby Keanu Reeves is in the 1992 movie. He plays Jonathan. We didn't even fucking mention that. But yeah, baby Keanu Reeves. Alright, see ya. Have a good night.